Welcome back to Adrian's Avenue, and I'm super excited that you're here today. We have another hot topic that I want to discuss with you because on this channel we help you make better decisions for a better life, because I truly believe that your daily decisions determines your destiny. And today we're going to be talking about being single. We're going to be talking about the gap between the amount of money we pay annually as being single as opposed to being married. Being single is a little more expensive, I guarantee you. And we're going to talk about it today, so stay tuned. First, let me put this misnomer to rest. Being single is not half as expensive as being married. We know when you get married, there's two people, but being single, you don't just cut it in half just because you're single, because there are certain things that you have to pay for regardless of whether you're single or married. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. The research shows that the average annual cost for being single as opposed to being married is about $5,500 to $6,200 more to be single on average annually. And what do we look at? One thing we're going to talk about is your rent or your mortgage. Whether you're single or married, the mortgage is going to be the same. If you get a one-bedroom apartment that charges $1,200, $1,500, whether you're single or not is not taken into consideration when they sign the contract as far as you getting into that apartment. As far as the house is concerned, you may have two incomes, you may have one income, but the cost of the house will be the same. Now, if you are married and you're have joint accounts, or if you're making money and both pitching in for this particular expense, it's going to be a lot less expensive per person to stay there than it would be for a single. So if it's a $1,200 apartment rent, whether you're together or whether you're living separately, it's going to be $1,200. This is the main thing that makes being single a little more expensive than being married. You can't split that cost. It's all on you as a single person. Along with that housing cost will be maintenance and utilities. You cannot say that because two people are living in the apartment or the house that the utilities are cut in half. There's a base price for utilities to start with. We all know that. And then as you use the certain amount of kilowatts or wattages for electricity or heating and cooling, it will start going up in the amount. So if you have two people there to split that cost, it's a lot cheaper than to have just one person taking on that whole bill. So these are two other areas. Maintenance, when it comes to cutting the grass or whatever kind of maintenance that you may have done around the house. If you own the house, you're still going to pay for that same yard as one person as you would for two. So these expenses run up. So don't think that living single is half as expensive as living as a married couple. It is truly no secret to know that two incomes beat one when it comes to going to the grocery store. We've talked about how expensive it is with inflation to go to the grocery store now. And so if you have two incomes paying for those groceries, if you buy a bottle of ketchup, if you buy sugar, anything like that, that's going to kind of last, that you're not going to eat up in one serving, it's less expensive for two people to buy that than it is for one person, for it to come out of one person's paycheck. So going to the grocery store, also when you start buying these single servings, they get more expensive. If you go down the frozen food aisle and see the single serving as opposed to the family style serving, it's more expensive to buy two single servings than it would be to buy maybe a family size or a serving for two. So food is more expensive when it comes to grocery shopping and getting the condiments that you may need to last over a certain period of time. It's less expensive if you have two people paying for it as it is just to have one. Now, normally auto insurance and health insurance, even your insurance on your home, will be cheaper if you are a married couple, because if you have two cars, normally you get a multi-car discount on some policies. So you will have that price that you would pay for a single car would probably go down just a bit because you have a second car on the policy and you're paying for that. Now, I know paying for two cars is more expensive than just paying for one car on an insurance policy, but per car is what I'm talking about. That premium for that one car that may be, let's say, $600 every 6 months. If you have two cars on the policy, it may go down to $500. And of course, you'll pay for insurance on that second car. And when it comes to health insurance, that too, if you add a person on, the first person is going to cost the most. If you add a person on, it's going to be cheaper. And if you add another person on, it's usually a little bit cheaper. And so this, as far as being married, helps with the cost, that household cost, as opposed to being single and having that bill all on by yourself, all on your own. So just keep that in mind. And that adds to this amount, this annual amount, that makes being single a lot more expensive than being married. Single or married, I want you to hit that like button and that subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on the latest information as it becomes available to you. And make a comment. Are you single paying more, or are you married splitting the difference? When it comes to eating out, sometimes you can get some coupons that say buy one, get one free. And so for that night, if you go somewhere that if you bring someone with you, such as your husband or your wife, you can actually, it'll be cheaper per person when you go there, because you'll be buying one meal, getting the second meal free. And if you're single, you could probably buy one meal, get the second meal free, but do you want to eat the same thing or something different that next day from that restaurant? So going out in general per person is less expensive if you are married as opposed to being single. So if you are single, make sure you are clipping coupons as much as possible to get a certain percentage off if you can. That will help in those expenses, because they're all on you. I'm single, and so I know if it's something where I want to go eat and I really want to go badly enough, I'm going to have to pay the whole amount, or I can clip some coupons and go there and eat for maybe a discount. However, if I were married, it would be shared between me and my husband, going out eating at these certain places, maybe buy one, get one free, and we can share in the cost. So per person, it will be cheaper as far as being married as opposed to being single at these restaurants. Some of these services of convenience, such as getting food delivered to your home, there's a charge for getting food delivered to your home. And so you would actually share in the cost of that if you were married as opposed to being single. Another convenience expense is if you have a housekeeper. If there's someone that comes into your home, if you just don't have the time to clean. I have nothing against housekeepers. I'm not at that level just yet, but getting that time back, you'll have to pay the house cleaner a certain amount of money. And if you are married, you could split that cost or share in that cost. However you do your finances as a married couple, it's cheaper per person for some of these services of convenience. So that's another area that if you're married, you can actually save in. Let's not forget the single parents. If you are single with a child, you have childcare, and that is much more expensive when it's on one person as opposed to a couple splitting that amount, or however you divide that down. So this is another area that the singles kind of lose out in. Now, there are some areas being single is a good idea, because you don't have to discuss a lot of your finances with another person or come to agreement on certain things with another person. It's all on you. You make those decisions by yourself, and you can run with them as you want to. You can buy the things you want to buy and decide on the things you want to decide on. I just say make sure you can afford those before you dip in and do something like that with your money, because you are all by yourself. It's all on you. If something were to happen, that expense would be on you. If your car breaks down, that expense is all on you. If you need new tires, that's on you. So make sure whatever decisions that you make, even though you're single, making them by yourself, that's fine. Just make sure you can afford those decisions that you're making and take into consideration the things that you'll have to do. Another area that will help if you have dual incomes, if there's someone else such as your husband or wife contributing, when you start building your emergency fund, it can be built maybe twice as fast as you could. As far as being single, it's going to be a little slower to put money aside unless you just really clamp down and start shoving the money into that emergency fund. So keep these things in mind as far as being single. There are advantages and then there's some disadvantages, but just depend on where you are in life. Marriage is great. Being single is great. Take advantage of whatever position that you're in, whether it's single or married. But just know it is more expensive, guys, if you're single to live the life and pay for things financially. And of course, I cannot forget this one last thing as far as being single. Going to events, dating, going out by yourself is more expensive. As a couple, you can pick and choose or stay at home and entertain yourself. But as single, sometimes we like to get out. We like to go see things, go to events, dating and that type of thing. And so it's going to be more expensive for life outside, just having fun and having fun with friends or meeting people. Making an effort to get out there may cost you a little bit of money to do that. Whereas if you're married, you found your partner, you're a couple, and some of these events you don't have to go to. But it is going to be a little more expensive for us because we may be seeking to go out, have fun, dating, doing that type of thing. So there is a price for that. So as a single, let us make sure that we fit that into our budget also. Well, that's it for this time, but I feel like you would probably agree with me that being single is more expensive than being married.